Is America a failed state? I've been wanting to do this video for a little while, and that's how it is. You get ideas for videos, and you don't have an appropriate topic. You don't have things in order. And I think now I'm ready to do this video. We've talked on here about anti-intellectualism. That it's a stream that runs through everyday life. That the idea is that my ignorance is as good as your knowledge, that's not true. It's never been true. Um, I think that COVID and the results, the death, the violence we've seen, the political talking points put forward by Republicans and Democrats, um, that you have Republicans saying now that COVID's real, COVID's a problem, but that the Democrats are bringing in illegals that are going to spread COVID. So you basically taking the issue you didn't care about, that you said wasn't real for over a year, that your president wasted 2 months on to handle, and now your person's out of office, another person's in office. Now you're saying it's a problem because the brown people are spreading it. Um, to deal with COVID appropriately, there will have to be more folks taking the vaccine, more folks wearing the masks. I mean, where I work at, when I go in the guard shack, I do my paperwork stuff. I go up to the person. I step back. I always have. I step back. Most folks are standing right up there. They're standing right up there in the window. And I mean, we've known for a while that a big part of the spread of COVID is face coverings, for lack thereof, in close spaces, the duration of your time in an enclosed space, and how close you are to the person that may or may not have COVID. We've known that. Some of this is common sense. Some of this is just you kind of should be able to understand that just from just, I guess, basic biology, basic science. But I think that because the fact you have this anti-intellectualism, the fact you have this ignorance, I think that it says something about our society as a whole. I think that the fact that so many people uh, are so divided over a year later, in this denial of science and this denial of facts. All these people have died. All these shock jocks, these conservative radio hosts have died. It says something about this idea Republicans have, that they're willing to die. They're willing to basically do anything they can to resist, delay, or obstruct the will of much of the American population, whatever it takes. No matter who hurt, no matter who gets hurt, no matter what they have to do to do it, they'll do it. And I think that if we're not going to take COVID serious, if we're not going to mask, if we're not going to take shots, I saw something today. There was a place that was giving vaccines or something, New York City, and people ran up and like tore the um, not tents. What do they call it? A canopy, they like an open tent. He tore it down and stuff. I think the fact that you're seeing all this violence now and this rage. I mean, I looked at Buster Rhymes just talking stupid about mess. The fact that we have this, and this is now okay, and you have people going to school board meetings comparing mask mandates to Nazi Germany, and people quoting Adolf Hitler that you're gonna make us do violence and stuff. Wearing a mask is not identifier. People who were Jews couldn't help being Jews. You understand, that's not the same thing. And the fact that you have people out here who don't or are unwilling to use a clear and sober mind in this. I mean, the fact that the people that won't do that's where do we go from here? Yeah, I think that America's a failed state. You know, I mean, COVID will probably go away, they're saying, by next spring, and I hope it does. But the reality is very simple. This is it's another demonstration of how balkanized America really is. That's my point. It isn't just about COVID. It's that so many people can get wrapped up into conspiracy theories. And now they're talking about people should break their family out of the hospital. And that the doctors are killing the patients. This goes beyond simple suspicion. This is incitement to violence. And the fact that this stuff isn't even shocking anymore, it further demonstrates my point that America's a failed state. I always go back to it. What happens the next time we have a major pandemic? And you'll say that, well, a normal president would handle a normal president wouldn't have waited 2 months on COVID. A normal president wouldn't have made a mockery of science, made a mockery. Dr. Fauci made a mockery of Dr. Fauci and others. But I think that the Trump presidency really demonstrates a real lack of intelligence that many Americans have, as well as this rage and this ignorance in regards to public health, in regards to medical science. It's a little bit terrifying. It's a little bit sad that a year in, you still have this. This is still going on. And that in a way, you know, we as Americans we've kind of become normalized to this. There's a podcast called It Could Happen Here, and I've been meaning to watch it, listen to it. I just don't, there's I don't Google Podcasts, just don't, but it's a pretty good one. I caught the first episode, it's a summarization of what he was talking about, that tanks on the street and stuff like that. And I think that what he said is kind of prophecy. He talked about what if there's a protest, people shoot at and the cops shoot, and they happen to shoot guns instead of less than lethal. And we had a cop in Minneapolis actually do that, shoot somebody instead of using a taser, which she said she thought she was going for a taser. And he talked about some other stuff that has actually happened, the George Floyd thing. So I think that I think we're a lot closer to that. I think that in some ways, it's good the elite of this country have chosen to not go the way of the nationalists, have not gone the way of things like that. That's not communism. You know what I mean? I love it when these conservatives call people communists, because they're the opposite of that. They're not communists. They just recognize that that's a dead end. White supremacy is a dead end. You're not winning the population. You're losing. If you choose to go down that road, you will lose. I mean, that's just what it is. You don't have to agree with these things, but if you go down that road, you're putting nails in your own coffin. I think that honestly, America's in trouble. Once again, if we can't deal with this stuff as adults, where do we go? Trump talked about masks being mandated, being a personal choice. You never had a pandemic in history like that, where it was up to people's choices to get shots and things like that. That's not how these things end. There's no personal choice during a fucking pandemic. We live in a civilization. That's right. That's right. I've talked about how before COVID, you had all these white folks calling for some black people for doing simple things and saying, why don't we just follow the rules? There isn't a week that goes by, you don't have some Karen somewhere screaming at somebody in a store about wearing a mask or screaming about something like that. Something in regards to protective measures. I don't know. It's important. It's important to understand this. It's important to understand that these are all landmarks on the road. These are all mile markers on the road that America's been traveling. Thanks for listening.